It's the grab bag.
So I know this might be a little bit of a spicy take, but I think that if Hollywood doesn't change their ways, and soon, it's over for them. And I think that one of the only things that's going to help them is if they got rid of the unions. This is where the spicy take comes in. I think that with SAG AFTRA and with the WGA, that these quotas that they're going to be placing on the writers and actors to have specific roles filled is actually going to destroy Hollywood. I mean, at this point now, most of the stuff they've been putting out has been bombing. There haven't been a lot of really, really profitable films, and it's hurting the movies. The movie studio, not studios, the movie theaters. They're in bad shape this year. There are not going to be that many big movies that are going to draw lots and lots of people to it. Um, and I think that this is going to be the death knell for Hollywood if they do not change their ways. You see, these quotas means that you have to hire people who may or may not be qualified, specifically because they match the criteria of the desired particular identity. And that means that if they simply identify as that particular whatever it might be, they can get that role, whether or not they're qualified. And by that I mean that they're just simply a decent writer. You don't need, or decent actor. If you really want to look at this as simple and apolitical as possible, anytime that there's a quota in place, it means that you're forced to make a decision whether it's good or bad. And if you do not have the proper, at least somewhat skilled actor or actress or writer, you're just going to have to fill that role. And this is going to lead to a lot of bad actors or bad writers getting jobs that they are simply not qualified for, which will tank the projects, which we've already began to see some of this. And it's simply because it's a forced choice. It isn't simply that they got to have somebody show up and pull on that role. And in my opinion, this is going to be the final straw. And the best thing that can possibly happen to prevent this is to get rid of the unions. So bye-bye SAG-AFTRA and bye-bye the WGA. And I'm sure I'm going to get ignored about this, but as long as the quotas are put in place, this is going to negatively affect Hollywood forever. And this is like ultimate form of studio meddling, because the studios are putting in the requirements that have to be filled, and then you may or may not have something that's actually decent, you know? And I'm not saying that, you know, anybody who has a particular identity can't write. No, this is something completely different from that. This is just simply whether people can or cannot write or can or cannot act. It doesn't matter what you identify as. It simply means that some people are not very skilled and they're going to get the job based on their identity. Whereas we could have things the way it used to be, where if somebody was skilled, it really didn't matter about what their identity was because they were skilled. And we're missing that whole point. The whole thing is that across the board, hiring based off of identity versus hiring based off of skill means that often you're not always going to have the most skilled. You should look for the skill of the person first, regardless of their identity. And hey, you could find people who identify the way you want them to identify, but they could still be very good at their job. And that's what's important, finding people who are good at their jobs. And this mandatory quota that has been put in place by SAG-AFTRA, by the WGA, it's going to make this a very difficult time for Hollywood. And they're already in a difficult time. So, you know, we'll have to wait and see.